All right, welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We have a piece of 5 by 7 it's a 5 by 7 folded card, so it's a 10 by 7 pre-folded card, and it's dark blue and just a matte cardstock. This color is blueberry. This is back when clearance packs of things like envelopes used to be, envelopes and papers and cards used to be so inexpensive at Kelly Paper. $4.50, and I don't know if that's a two something, like a reduced price on top of that, but used to get some, a really amazing clearance section buys from there. But I don't know, these days the clearance prices are almost like higher than the regular prices used to be, so I do have a lot of these types of things, but if you don't have a pre-folded card, just go with a 10 by 7. And then I would probably stamp on it before you fold it, because I'm going to be working around this kind of raised area right in here, and that's never good for impressions. Okay, so that being said, I thought I would go with some of the ArtFoamies versions of the Stampscape stamps. I didn't have these really tall trees back in the day when I was doing some of my pieces. So on a scene like this one right here, this is on the same paper right here. I had to stamp, my tree trunks pretty high in the composition just so that they run off the top of the page. So I couldn't stamp them much lower. But these days I can really frame off of the piece. Okay, so I'm going to be going, this is going to be the front of the card, but I'm also going to be stamping what would be the back of the card. You can do it vertical too, something like this. If you want to have some imagery down here and like a sky up there, that would be cool in that type of format. Hello, Laura and Bonnie. Good to see you. All right, so I'm with this type of matte paper, and it's not even like a coated cardstock where it's like super smooth. Just use, the best ink that you have for that. I'm going to go with a little bit of a thicker ink, again, in the hybrid ink right here. If you have a Brilliance Black, a Versafine Clear would be good. I don't know, if you have a really good black dye-based ink pad, I guess that would be fine, but I would ink it up quite a bit because this is going to be fairly absorbent. And it's already dark, so we want to get as dark of an impression on here as possible. Hello, Berit, how are you? I laugh because Berit was on in my after midnight stamping session last night. So it was like 9 a.m. her time. Let me see. So that was like 9 a.m. Okay, I can't do the math, Berit. What time is it there now? Okay, let's get this composition started. Okay, so I'm going to be working it around this cabin right here, this moonlit cabin type of thing, okay? So maybe I'll stamp that one first. I was going to kind of establish everything else. Yeah, maybe I need to go big first, okay? I'm going to make it look, I want it to look like this. There's this forest in here, and we're kind of framing off the backdrop in there, all right? And let's see here. This one's going to be really big right here. So I'm just going to use, like, I don't know, whatever, 40% of this trunk right here. Let me get some of these things out of the way here. We're going big here, and yeah, you know how it goes with all of us stampers. We tend to leave in just enough working space for what we need, with all I don't know, whatever clutter all around. All right, so let's see. Let me start on the back here. So okay, so here's the thing: when you're doing this type of thing with a folding card, and if you're going back and forth, you really want this front one to read as an independent scene, because that's what people are going to be seeing at first, okay? But then you want it to work in conjunction, where it's almost like a front of the card as one scene, a back of a card as another kind of, it doesn't need to be like so complete of a scene, but you want it fairly readable as is, and not just like, you're wanting for more, when you look at them, just apart from each other. And then the entire spread is like the third kind of reveal. So it's almost like if this was some sort of narrative, it'd be like introduction and conclusion right here. But this is like the, you know, the whatever, the climax, the body and climax all in one, you know, when you do like a full spread like that. So yeah, you just have to kind of read it or think of it as people might be thinking about or looking at it, you know, when they pop open a card, they're going to be seeing this first, and they might go like, oh, it's on the back too. And then they'll go, oh, it's like one thing. So it's like 1, 2, 3. And then of course you can do, this could even be an interior spread too. You know, you can have whatever you want, you know, happy birthday or something like that. And then they open it like this and it's this big, huge reveal like that too. Okay. So a lot of different ways you can think about it when you're making use of this folded format here. Okay. Hello, Debbie. And let's see. We have thunder and lightning. Oh, well, that's cool though, Laura. You should get some photos of it. Set up some photos and do take some shots for photo stamping at 1:40 a.m. So you're almost like that's about, well, not quite, but that's almost the time when I like stopped last night here. Well, it's good to see you. We see you at when you wake up and then before you go to bed. In the lives here, the live streams. Okay, so inked up here, and let's go. Let me make sure that I inked up enough here. All right, I don't know if I just squeeze this off, but we'll have this fairly dominant. So I'm going, that card goes roughly like right here. So I'm just using this. I don't know, it's hard to think of something like this as a small portion of this as the stamp's so big and it's taken up like a big part of a 5x7, but these ArtFoamies are really cool that way. I decided to use the ArtFoamies again because, you know, I have this thing in here to kind of work around, but I also wanted to make use of the height of this card. And the foamies are great to contour to things. Hello, Sam Hawkins. Good to see you. Oh, you don't have the view you had. Drive out to get some shots somewhere. But stay on with the live stream though. All right, let's go with a little bit right here, and I'll kind of frame off the entire composition with this. I wasn't quite sure. I have so many different options this time with these ArtFoamies right here. And let's go with the big one right here. Okay, I don't want to put too much of it on this side because I have my lakeside cabin that I'm going to put place within this space right here, and then here's the crease right here, so it has to fit in here. Okay, but I still want the framing though. I think having like this super dominant side piece right here, I just think we really needed something on this side to really frame it off and to balance it off a little bit. Or balance it off a lot. Okay, that is that for this one. This would be a really fantastic. I think I did. I was wondering if I've used that one in a 11x17 scene before, and I think I have. Okay, this is a little bit of a larger tray trunk than the rubber version. Let's see, let's go like this here. Okay, so my shoreline's going to be, I mean, I could put it right at the edge of this right here, but it'll be right in here, and then the cabin will go in there. I think I need to move this over here a little bit more though. Okay, so this edge right here is almost going to be right on that interior line right here. Okay, so if you've just joined in, this is a pre-folded 5x7 card, so 10" by 7". Kind of a matte blue cardstock. And normally I don't ink up my pads like super juicy. It's not overly juicy, it's just kind of more like if you bought the pad new, it's probably has about that same amount of ink as that. And again, it's just so I can get some decent dark impressions on top of this dark paper. If I stamped out, you know, my dye-based ink, it might stamp out lighter because it's getting absorbed into the paper, so it might be like a 90% gray on top of a white piece of paper is not going to be a problem. But if it's like a 90% on top of this, the contrast between the imagery and the paper is just not going to be as wide as, you know, I'd want it to be. I mean, it might give it a certain type of mood to it, but, you know, I don't want that here. You know, I'd rather it be kind of intentional rather than something that I have to work around. Good night, mate. Sleep well. Dream of scenic dreams for you. Barry was like logged on for the stream yesterday. Well, for her it was yesterday morning. But they were like checking out of a hotel that they were at. It's like, oh, you're watching the live stream while you're on kind of vacation. You know, they were just probably got a notice of an email notice or something like that I was on. Okay, so let's fill this in with a little bit of extra texturing right now, and let's see what we have in terms of, I don't know, basically we've created 2 windows here for our composition. Sedge filler right here, which is basically a grass texture. I'm not really taking the time to kind of wipe off the edges a little bit to get a little bit of a smoother transition in between the impressions, because I have a lot of shadow work to add in here and then highlighting it, you know, and it's just going to cover up all, you know, a bunch of areas in here anyway. So I'm not really bothering with that. I mean, it's a good practice to do, though, with any type of textural stamp, you know, like clouds or something like that. It's just to take a little paper towel and wipe it off around the edge so that when you stamp it out, it fades out a little bit on the edge, where another impression is going to blend into it. So you're kind of, you know, wiping off a little bit of that overlapping area of the 2 impressions. Okay, so you see that's a little bit heavier right here and here, where you get those textures overlapping with each other like that. Okay, it looks like bricks or something like that. But again, it's, you know, by the time you add in all of this type of like shadow work and everything like that, you know, it's not really going to matter. But I just say that because I know some people get, you know, they see a scene like this and it's like, okay, they did this part and it's like, oh my God, you know, mine, it doesn't look like that one, you know, the end result of this one right here. So they get a little bit like, you know, they think it looks blobby, you know, which it does, you know, but you know, I mean, it's just like one layer, you know, of, you know, several that are going to be in there. So I always like to point that out because I know what, you know, some people think when they're first doing a lot of times scenic stamping, not used to having like a, you know, kind of a undesirable look, you know, as far as whatever step they're on, you know, in other types of stamping, you know, because it's much more visible. But in scenic stamping, you end up overlapping it. You put foreground bushes over the front of it, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of stuff that you do here, so you don't really need to sweat those kind of initial steps in the process. You know, if I drop a stamp or something like that, then, you know, that wouldn't be good. But, you know, short of doing something like that, you know, everything gets really buried in technique. Hello, Jennifer. Yeah, we'll put you to sleep again real fast. What did you count? Did you count those dots? Yeah. Jennifer was in on the live stream last night too, but hers, it was like more like early morning, like really early morning. If you you know, if you don't mind me saying to everyone else, but that was just kind of funny. I added a lot of dots into my scene last night, and you know, it goes for her or anyone else that's you know, having a trouble sleeping. But you know, you can kind of count, you know, instead of counting sheep, we're counting you know, acrylic paint pen dots. And when they got to, you know, like 2031, you know, the insomnia was gone. Okay. I'm putting in a little bit more pressure right around this tree. Now, see that tree right there? I don't know. I probably have like a 1/4 inch of it sticking out from this paper towel mask, just because I don't want a big kind of like space in between where it's like you mask something off, then you stamp something out over the top of it, and there's this big gap in the middle, this white gap, you know? Well, that wouldn't be white, it'd be this blue gap, you know? But, you know, if you have some of this going into that, you know, it's not going to matter with Stampscape stamps because it's, you know, it's just like this tonal thing going into here. So I can see some of this tree right here overlapping into this one. But again, we're going to color it in and everything like that anyway, so it's not going to matter. Okay, now see, so I've created this as like this little island. So I need to create kind of a you know, a far shoreline somewhere in here. It could be as low as this right here, and this could be like this body of water right here, but I can also go up higher right in here somewhere. And let's do that. Let's see if I have enough of these trees right here, if I should go with another image. Maybe I'll do this near shoreline right in here. I was going to put something like more distant in the background, like this is sticking out in some shoreline and it wraps around and, you know, a mile back or, yeah, whatever, are some other trees in here. But if I put this right here, though, I think that looks pretty good too. So let's see here. I might use the rocks from Pine Island right here. But, you know, just because I have it like right next to me and I don't feel like going out and finding another stamp. Okay, so this one I used white ink on the last time, but let's do this right here. So, Stampscape stamps, you know, you use portions of them like that, just of that tree. That's the ArtFoamies one, though. But on this one right here, I'm just going to be using the rocks right here, and then I'll be using the trees right up here without the trunks, right, you know, coming up from those rocks right there. Okay, so I think we're going to have to mask a couple areas right here. Let's go with this and this, like that. Okay, have a little bit of showing again. Okay, let me see, where am I? Okay, so that shoreline goes to about right here. Let's have a little bit of a higher shoreline up here. Yeah, just so it looks a little bit farther back. I mean, It could be lower and closer to you. It could be the same height. Just letting some of that ink absorb into that background a little bit more, like that. See, some of that rock went into that, but again, no big deal. And let's do... let's do it. This is just going to take a second here. I was going to say I can just leave it as is, but I want to continue that shoreline over there a little bit more. And it'll just take a second here. Snapping a little bit higher than that, this little, whatever, rock, whatever you call it, outcropping or something like that, in that area, right in there. Okay, so you see that right in there. And this is why it's kind of important to get kind of a nice, good, thick impression. Like this right here. I probably should have held it down a little bit longer. See, that's not super dark. It's not quite as dark as like right over here. Okay, or like there. I don't know, maybe I don't know, maybe that is going to be as dark as that. Maybe this one's just dried. But the ArtFoamies are kind of like squeezing out more ink because it's, you know, it's a foam stamp. Okay, let's see. Let's go for some trees here. You can put any type of tree in here, but this one kind of matches the trees in here a little bit more. Okay, let's see. I'll go like this right here. Let me use the straight side of this one. And let's go about that high right there. Yeah, anytime you have that insomnia, just check out the channel. We'll put you right to sleep. I tell people that someone years ago told me that they watch, if they have a hard time sleeping, they just flip on one of my videos. I wasn't doing any lives at the time, live streams, but it was just the you know, the pre-recorded. And she told me that, you know, hey, if she ever has a hard time sleeping, she just flips on one of my videos and it's like, boom. It's lights out. And again, that was fine with me. I was just, you know, happy that the, you know, the videos, you know, for whatever, any reason, you know, come in handy for someone. I didn't take offense to that at all, because I've watched my videos before and they put me to sleep too. Okay, so we have some trees right in there like that. See, we're kind of creating this shoreline right here. I like that look right there. That one's stamped out a little bit light though, huh? All right, and I think one more impression. And I'm masking off this trunk right here and the top of that rock in the background. You almost can't even tell it's a rock. Okay, let's go right here. There was another tree from a closer tree on the that cabin stamp right here. So I'm just, hopefully I'm not stamping over that tree. You know what I mean? Because it would look like it's in front of it. But again, you know, it's not going to be that big of a deal if it overlaps by a little bit, but I don't want to overlap it by like an inch or something like that. Okay, so there we have like a nice little composition right here. Okay, so as I was saying before, I don't want to fold this right now and put an extra crease in it, but here's the front of the card right here, okay, like that. So I think that makes for a pretty decent composition just on its own in terms of the structure. Back here, you know, if I put like a little boat or something like that in there, you know, some sort of focal point. On this one right here, I used a word stamp in here, which I thought made a good complement. Now I'm going to put that moon right up here somewhere too, okay? And that will create the lighting, whatever, scenario for the entire scene. So if I put a moon up here, then I can illuminate this side of the trees facing the light, okay? Like right in here and here. This would be you can put a moon up here too, and that would be pretty cool. And you can have this kind of lighting coming in from that way. You can even do light beams coming across there. There's all kinds of different possibilities right here. But as I'm looking at the structure right now with these tree trunks right in here, I need to soften up these angles right here. See all these angles like this, and here and here and here. You know, there's just too many like these boxy rectangles around in here, or these sharp 90 degrees. And I want to soften up some of this in here. So what I'm kind of thinking about doing, I'll add in some like bushes or something like that in here. What is going through in my head though is I'm wondering if I should do that now or if I should add in the lighting and then stamp the imagery over the top of it so I get a nice dark crisp impression as opposed to going over, you know, foreground imagery with white. I think I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna save the more foregroundy types of things for later, or at least I'll add on a little bit of lighting first, and I could stamp it in there and add more lighting again too. So, but let's try the lighting first here. So, okay, so I could use my moon stamps, my larger moon stamps off the same set. Or I can just go with, you know, this whatever glowing orb in the sky type of thing. Or I can do both. I think this one right here, this is like a 1-inch hole punch right here. And I can just throw that up there. But this one right here, we have a really big dramatic one I can have rising, you know, from the horizon, like right in here. As I look at this though, like this, I'm really tempted, you know, to do like this really big moon right in here. I think I'm going to do that just because I really like the 1-inch moon too on these pieces, but I've done that a bunch of times, you know. I like to kind of mix things up a little bit more. So this will give us a really big kind of focal point of the scene too. So let's see how this one goes here. Hello, Sharita. Okay, let's see here. Let's go with our Brilliance ink. I'm going to put the moon kind of rising up from behind some of these trees, okay? This tree right here is more of a deciduous one that's going to be fairly light, so I could get some white pigment ink in there if I want to, but I'll largely be... let me see, here's the cotton ball I used last night. The second usage is always the best, and then after that it gets a little bit too gummed up and hard, so I usually don't use it after that. Or if it dries, you know, you can't really use that as well. Hello, Megan. Well, thanks for popping in and saying hi. Good to see you. All right, let's see here. Oh, I read your mind, Debbie. We're doing the big one. Okay, so let's transition this a little bit, okay? Let's go with a little bit of a... a lighter area. I typically have a lighter area on the top. Was there a full moon within the last few days? Where's Laura? Laura would know that. They do all kinds of celestial, astrophotography. I was kind of looking at my blind. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's been a week. Okay, there we go, like that. All right, so it's kind of rising up. It's a little bit wonky right there, but I'll kind of be adding in some, some more, I don't know, whatever you call it, atmospherics into this. But let's see. Okay, here's this moon texture right here. I do have some other colors of ink, but I think I'm going to keep this, really, really basic here with just the black and white, I think. But I'm starting to, as I looked at this, I was wondering if I had like a dark blue, they could stamp right over the top in there. I think what I'll do, I'll just do that second impression type of thing and just go for a little bit of texturing on that moon right there. Let me look at this too. Let me do this right here too. I'm going to diffuse the edges a little bit. I think. Yeah. There we go. I'm trying to make it look a little bit more like it's glowing a little bit more, with just a little bit of a haze around it like that. Again, I think I want to go a little bit lighter in here too. Let me try to build it up a little bit. So I was kind of wiping it around like that, but that will only apply so much because you're kind of, you're wiping, at some point in time when you're doing that, you're kind of probably wiping some ink off. Okay, so if you want to build it up, you just go with your tapping motion like this. I'm going lighter like this because I want to have some more opportunities to use white reflected light in here. But if it's kind of dull in here, your reflections of that light are going to be, they're not going to be lighter than the light source itself. So I'm going a little bit or a lot lighter here. I don't know, it's probably a good, 20% lighter than it was just a couple seconds ago. It'll dry though, and as it dries, it'll become, it just becomes a little bit more transparent. It moves towards transparency, so add a little bit more than you think would be ideal for your purposes. And I'm saying that now because if I wasn't stamping this imagery, this texture over the top of it, I could still add it in whenever, but if I'm going to stamp this over the top of it, I mean, I guess you could add some white over it, but it's better to get that white, that background light in there before you stamp this down there, because if you go over the top of it again, you're going to be going over the, the impression, the darker impression. All right, so let's see. Now this is going to be really, really juicy because I just inked up this pad here. So let's do a pretty significant impression with it first, like that. And then let's do this too. Let me wipe off the perimeter a little bit. And let me get a little bit more of a transition in here too. Yeah, I'm wiping off a little bit more. I just want a little bit of this moon, these craters to be showing up. But we'll do it, we'll try to go pretty subtle. All right, let's see how this goes here. I'm trying to figure out the positioning. Okay, I'm just eyeballing it too, of course. No stamp positioner. Oh my god, I can't even see it. It's like completely invisible right here. I think what happened is I think I'm stamping it into wet, pigmenting, so maybe it's not, it didn't. Or I don't know, maybe I took off way too much too. Okay, let me see how this goes here. Now maybe I'm not going to take off enough and it's going to be too dark, right? So you compensate too much, going the other way sometimes. Okay, let me see how this goes here. Wait, which way is this? Let me see. Okay, let's try this again. Cross your fingers. If it stamps out too light, you can always go darker, right? That's all I always say. Or coloring and things like that. You just kind of put a lighter touch of something in there, and then if it, you can kind of see if you like it, and if you like it, you can always go darker. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, it darkened it up quite a bit, though. I might add in a little bit more atmospherics around it with some additional white in there, but I want that texture in it right in there. Let's make this area a little bit lighter, maybe. Okay. But we got a pretty decent glow going there, I think, for, kind of what we're going after. Let's wait till that dries a little bit before I add a little bit more into it, but let's add in some of the, just the general areas of lighting in here. Where I'm going to have a lot of reflected light. Okay, so right underneath my light source, if you have like a body of water or something like that, this is like the perfect area right in here. That makes sense to have some reflected light. Water reflects light, a lot more than, your earthen area or grassy. So let's do this, okay? Let's go like right in here. I'm kind of getting my bearings right here, just having that center, and then I'll just go like this. So as I'm kind of going from center out like this, okay, and trying to get this transition from light to dark in here, or wet to dry like that, okay? And I'll do the opposite on the opposite side of that. You can do this too if you want to. You can do it with colored pencils or a pastel pen or something like that. And I'll probably use those too. But if I'm just going for some, like a general area of light, and if this is going to be faster, I'll just do it with this because I can get a lot of coverage with this. And again, this doesn't have to be like a refined look. You can refine this later, again, with, colored pencils and things like that. More of the, the sharper types of instruments. It's the opposite of shading almost, Usually on a white piece of paper, I'm coming in with the darker areas from the sides in, but this one you're going from the inside out like that. But it's the exact same, type of concept in terms of, the transitioning values like that. Okay. So we have that right there. And let's get some of that lighting in our grassy area like this. Okay. Something like this. And let's see. Big moon, big light, I agree. Okay, let's get, no, okay, I don't want this, this is water over here too, so I don't want it just completely, void of lighting or something like that. So Let's add in some of that lighting. And again, this is like the other half of the card. So we want this to read as, you know, kind of its own scene in a way. Like this, and we'll have that lighting coming out this way. My shadows from this tree are basically going to be like at this angle right here. So we'll have the shadow coming out like that, and then we'll go like this. So this will be the lighting up here, and then the shadow is right at the base of that. So it's like roughly going to be going like this. So you know, you have this kind of like single point perspective right in here, like that. So these will be flared out a little bit. But remember, you can do that with black, so that you can do this with your white and just come in here, and then the black will cover up, you know, anything you need it to. All right, so a little bit more in the water, like this, like that, okay. And let's make it a little bit lighter around in kind of the main reflected light area. We have our cabin right here, and I like doing this with the pigment ink because I get a kind of a nice soft application with this. But I'll take this now. See the top of that cabin right there? It's really dark right now, I know. But see this little angle right here? What I do is I just go like this. You don't need to do it on all four sides, like the bottom of it, because you're going to transition it anyway. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to put a little bit of a lighter or a thicker application of white up here and less down here. And it's only within like a 1-inch space, so there's not a lot of room here for this. But when you start tapping this, you just kind of tap it like maybe like a 1/4 inch on that rooftop like that. Let me get a little bit more ink. I'm getting a little bit blobby here and going into my tree, but the tree will be kind of defined with its own light too, so again, you can overlap in it and over apply, okay? But see that right there on top of that rooftop right there? The interiors of the windows will be illuminated as well when I get to that. All right, but I think that's the general kind of lighting scheme of the piece. Let's get a little bit more, you know, atmospherics in the piece with some additional clouds in here. Okay, so let's see. Let's add this little streaky kind of applications in here. Again, this is kind of different for me, you know, because I'm usually doing this with darker tones on top of lighter paper, but it's a little bit of a different kind of whatever, I don't know, mindset, not really mindset, but if you feel like you're using a different part of your brain sometimes doing these reverse types of applications, you know, revealing light. That's what I was always convinced of in my stamp board classes, when people would be doing the scratching into their scenes after they stamped everything out, you know, and working on their highlights and things like that. Okay, so just some little, whatever, lighting changes in the sky like that. Textural changes. Everything's like super soft right now. We'll be adding in the sharper highlights later. I'm wondering if I should do this on the trees as well. Let me add a little bit of light with some of this too. I'll add some soft light in here. I don't know if this sound is picking up for any of you, but I hope it doesn't sound like a, you know, like a, you know, whatever, not quite nails on a chalkboard, but something kind of similar. All right, so a little bit of lighting, on the side of this tree right here. Let's do the same thing for these other ones. It just does like a little preliminary lighting application. That, and we'll go with this right here. So on the sides of the trees facing the light, okay? All right, so we have something like that. So that's the general lighting scheme right there. All right, everything's all fuzzy and out of focus. This is the thing that I'm usually adding in like last, is the white pigment ink, to represent whatever fog and mist and things like that. So it's kind of interesting kind of doing this at this stage of the game. All right, so we'll be using some acrylic paint pens in here, colored pencils, mostly black and white ones. And we'll start to define everything in here. Let me go with some, let me do the inks first too. Let me get some of these shadows kind of starting to get established a little bit, just so I don't have to do so much work with the, the colored pencils and stuff. So let's do it with this. I'll take care of some of the large sweeping kind of shadow work in here that I'm going to do, or that I'm going to end up adding in here. All right, so we're going back to our same black ink that we stamped out our imagery with. So you get your ink in your cotton ball here, 100% cotton ball. Kind of smash it back into the cotton ball a little bit, where it's a little bit beyond the surface too, just so that you have something to apply. All right, and I think that should do it there. Okay, so light is on the left side of this trunk and on the right side of the trunks to the left of the moon. So I'll be adding shadow to the, the opposite side of the illuminated side. Okay, so like this, and that was fast. Now see, I mean, that took like a few seconds, and that tree's, I've taken care of a lot of the, the shading of that one, like within a couple seconds. So yeah, you can do that with, the colored pencil will work too, but if you can do something like so much faster with like a wider application, it's an option. Okay, I'm going to try to transition this a little bit too, so I'm going a little bit darker. But we have more of this trunk showing here, so I'll go a little bit darker at the base and a little bit lighter up top, but it'll be going from light to dark like that, okay? I put a little bit more shading on at the base of objects usually, because I think it anchors them kind of visually into the scene a little bit more. All right, see that right there? And then we have this one right here. Matte blue. Or did someone else answer? Hello, Chris and Jeannie. Let's see. We don't need lots of pine trees. Okay, let me get this one right here. This one I was going like completely off the page, but on this one right here, I just want to be, stay within the framework of this trunk right here for the most part. Go a little bit darker down below. You know, this will be getting refined too with the use of the you know, the colored pencils, or I don't know, just whatever else I come across that I can use on this. All right, see that right there? So it's, I don't know, it's like a, I don't know what percentage of gray this is, but over the top of that black, it looks like a 70% gray, or on the top of that blue, I should say. I meant. And then see, I have a little bit less right here, a little bit more of the blue showing of the card stock, and then a little bit whiter over here. So transitioning. I want more impact though, in terms of you know, more contrast in there. But we'll start off with that. Let's see, I can go a little bit darker down here. Like that. All right. This is picking up a little bit of glare like that too. This is what it kind of looks like right here, okay? Okay, let's add in those shadows that we were talking about earlier. So let's get the angles roughly set here. Go like that. What I like to do too is, like in the shadow work right here, see this is going a little bit darker at the trunk, and it's, as it moves up here, it moves a little bit lighter, especially right in here. It's a little bit darker here and light, but in the shadows I like to transition it too, going from a little bit darker here to lighter out here. Now I don't have like a, you know, like a long area down here to transition a shadow in, so I'll just go a little bit darker right here to about right here, and then we'll have this area out here just slightly lighter. Okay, let me get that. Let me see this angle right here. I can usually just eyeball it, but let's get this right here. So I usually go with the center of my light source, okay, and then I'll go, okay, like right here. Okay, so this whole area can get kind of, you know, it doesn't have to be filled in completely, but you know, maybe a little bit of tone, at least. All right, so see that shadow work right there? And again, we'll refine it a little bit more as we get into our other types of crisper media like that. Okay, but that's just the general type of lighting scheme in here. All right, now I'm looking at these two areas of my water right here. And you see that kind of, that little bit of a, oh, it's kind of like a vignette, like right around it. And maybe I should do that one with the colored pencil, but maybe if I can get a little bit of a shoreline type of shading in there like that. It almost happened too fast. Yeah, I might have added too much. Here, let me see. Let's blend that out a little bit. Oh, here, let's go with a little bit of that shoreline over there too. I can't tell what part of this cotton ball is kind of, you know, wet with ink and what side's dry. Right, there we go, like that. I almost have to keep it up at an angle to see the, you know, through the glare myself here. You know, when I'm doing this right here, I'm working under like brighter lights than, you know, what would be kind of ideal to work under. You know, during these live streams and videos. All right, there we go, like that. Okay. All right, let's start adding in some of our kind of more detailed work in here. And that's where the piece will really start to come to life, hopefully. Everything's kind of like, it's like the foundation, you know, it's going from like soft to crisp that way. Okay, now one of the things I mentioned about that moon. Let's add a little bit more brightness into this because I want to, or lightness, because I want to be able to add in some nice light types of features in here. This is picking up some of that black there a little bit. But let's see if we can get this kind of glow in there, as you know, just so we can use it as a kind of a reference for, you know, how much highlighting work we should or could add into this piece. Okay, so I'm just kind of trying to make it kind of lighter in one little area, and that would be fine. See, that kind of brings out that lightness on here a little bit more. And again, the light, you know, the light source, it just makes sense that that would kind of be the you know, the lightest thing, you know, in this scene right here, short of having some sort of, you know, kind of artificial light in here. Like the interior, the cabin lights, you know, are going to probably be fairly light in here. All right, let's see here. Okay, now one of the things I don't think I was using back when was, I didn't think I had found my my white pastel pencil. I had these white pastel pencils from my school days, and I hadn't really used them before, or since then, okay? But I found that it really works great on certain types of papers, so let me see. Should I go with this one first, or should I go with my paint pens and colored pencil? Let me go with the colored pencils. Okay, because this is pastel, and sometimes it's hard to apply the colored pencils over this dry pastel. But it's also kind of vice versa, though, because I can't really, I don't know. Here, let me just go in with this black colored pencil first. Okay, so I'm going to do some kind of refined, very specific shading with this, okay? It's a good tool for that. So I'm going right along this shoreline right here, just to add a little bit more value and depth in those shadows. And on the trees, we have all these, you know, specific little textures on the trees. So I can go into those areas where, you know, with this, you know, you kind of taken care of like a whole like finger or thumb kind of area of color, but I can go in and kind of define some of these shadows a little bit more like this. Like specific areas, textures, I guess, or shadows in the textures, okay? All right. One of the things I have to kind of, unless I've done something a lot of times, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to bring everything kind of into focus all at once, as opposed to working like on one object for too long and kind of bringing it into kind of a degree of refinement and then sometimes moving on to the next one. If I haven't done this type of or some kind of technique in a while, because one treatment of one object might look different, you know, by the time I move over here, it's like, you know, I change my technique, you know. And like I said, I haven't done one of these in like you know, it feels like I haven't done them in a long time, kind of working on like a dark paper in general. You know, much less the back and front folded card type of format. Okay, so right here, I'm just making the shadow areas a little bit darker from right here to here. And I'm going into these kind of textural areas a little bit more, like that. About like so. Okay. And this one right here, again, I don't have very much space here, but I'm not using this pencil really hard either. Okay, it's more like a, I don't know, maybe like a 5% application of this black, as opposed to anything too dark and harsh. Okay, the tree right here going from dark to light up here, so I'm going a little bit darker down below just to really anchor that trunk into the scene visually. Okay, and let's add some more texture variation within the grassy area. So it's kind of hard to see, but what I'm doing is I'm adding in, there's these textures down in here. And I can kind of see them. You can see, see them a little bit, through all the shading and everything like that I've already laid down on here, some of the white ink. But where I can see it, I'm just kind of bringing that out a little bit more, where it already exists in the impressions. All right, and let's see. It's a little bit crisper now. Or a balance of crisp and, a little soft with the white in there. I'm going to go a little bit more up here too. I added some of that white on here, but I lost the edge of that tree a little bit with some of that white pigment ink. So I'm just kind of reintroducing that edge there a little bit more. And we'll keep it a little bit light right here. So it's going from a little bit darker, lighter, darker down here. And going way back, if you were watching the process, I mentioned that this tree was stamped into this one a little bit, so I'm just going to add a little bit of a darker edge right there to separate this tree a little bit more from that background tree. All right, let's see. I think we can go, I should probably use some blue colored pencils in here too, like dark blue. But let's come across in here a little bit with this black. I've given myself a little bit of a, I don't know, whatever, a break in the, in that lighting right there, because it'll give me an excuse, or it'll give me a place to add the lighter highlights in there. Okay, if I have a little bit of like a, I don't know, what do you call them? Striations. Like that. That blue looks pretty good too, that other tone of blue. Actually, I really like that. Let me see. Let me add a little bit into some of these objects as well. It's good to get a little bit of a different... It's a lighter blue, but it's a little bit of a different blue too, so it kind of glows in there a little bit more. Like that. All right. Now, let's see. This one's going to look a little bit nuts. Maybe not, because I can use all these different blues that I have now too, which I didn't have before. Back when I was doing something like this, I don't know, maybe it was more to the point when I was doing this, but that was all just using white and black media, because we didn't have these, you know, this full range of values in, at that time it was gel pens, but it was also the paint pens too. I think I had my Sharpie pastel set of pens, but it was like one blue, one green, and one pink, you know, along with white. I think that there was a beige in there too. But these days we have so many more choices. Okay, so this is going to look like it's crawling with little dots probably, because this is on kind of a darker surface like this, but then we're going to go back in, we'll diffuse all that later with some additional white pigment ink, and then we'll add in our crisp elements, especially like right within the foreground here. Let's see. I'm true lefty. I think in reverse all the time. Using that good. This will be a good exercise for you, Bonnie, if you aren't already doing these ones. The light on dark, because you might be having like the perfect brain whatever hemisphere for this. Okay, let's see right here. All right, so this is like my, well, I guess this is my darkest blue. So I'll kind of work from dark to light like this. And as you add these types of things in here, these little touches, this is really going to stand out and look kind of weird until you bring in kind of a consistent texturing over the whole thing, okay? So if you haven't done this before, you're going to add like a white dot. It's like, oh my God, it stands out so much, you know, which it might. But bring that lighting and texture over the entire piece, you know, and that'll bring a, you know, continuity and uniformity, and, you know, it'll make sense as a whatever mark in your piece. Okay, so see this tree is starting to kind of come out from the background a little bit, and this is kind of a, you know, it's like a medium tone blue, slightly lighter than medium maybe, but and what I'm doing right here, for the most part, except around the, you know, the side of this tree, is I'm kind of adding it in these lighter areas. Okay, so there was a little bit of a light area right here, and you can see this kind of form right here. It's kind of light, so I'm putting those highlights on the side of that light right there. Some of it exists in the stamp, and some of it is just where I didn't tone it out with the ink, so I'm just looking to see, you know, what I'm having to work with right here, and I'm just going with whatever, you know, kind of has already been established. So like right in here, we see this little area of light. This little area is light right here. It's a lot lighter up here, okay? Maybe this area in here, this is going to be a dark mark over the top of light, so, you know, maybe the lighting right on this tree right in here is going to have to be done with, you know, one of the lighter tones, blue, beige, or, you know, all the way to white like that. Okay. All right. Let me flip this over. I'm just flipping it because I have an easier time accessing this edge right here. If I flip this upside down, then going like this and having to put my hand in, you know, that wet ink right there. Hello, Craft My Cat. Looks like there's a face in the moon. Who is it the face of, Debbie? We're going to analyze Debbie right now. Oh, Jennifer's lefty too. All right, how many dots were laid down there, Jennifer? Are you counting? For those that just joined in right here, I was trying to help Jennifer sleep last night in the Stampscapes After Midnight live stream. And for the rubber stamper, for the scenic rubber stamper, you know, there's a proven method of, you know, fighting insomnia, and that's counting highlighting dots. We're certainly watching me apply it. Not the most dynamic, you know, kind of live stream content one can ever, you know, come across, watching someone like apply like a 0.7 millimeter acrylic paint pen, you know, 2,000 times. As I'm doing this, you guys should break out your stamps and, you know, stamp along with me. Doesn't have to be this scene, of course, but just, you know, stamping. Then you can kind of, you know, you can get to work, and it's like you know, you finish 2 cards and it's like, oh, Kevin's on the same tree. Oh, you're still highlighting that exact same tree right there. As I'm doing this, I really should be, you know, taking a look and seeing how this is looking right here. Yeah, it's like totally crawling with little dots right here, you know, so you can get your, you want to get your bearings when you're adding in things like this, especially if it's a mark that's really standing out quite a bit. This is also, like I said, I used to, you know, for years I just used a white pen, but I'm able to add a little bit more different colored marks because I have them in different colors now, or different values, you know, to be more, you know, accurate. But I like having that kind of that layered look in here with colored dots. So it just makes them a little bit, the depth of the lighting is a little bit more, you know, whatever, developed or rich by having lighter light as well as, you know, or darker light as well as lighter light. All right, so see this right on here on the side like that. We'll add it down here in the grasses as well. If any of you are on Pacific Standard Time, now's the time to go. You know, if you got dinner to cook or something like that. And don't worry, you know, you won't be, you'll just be missing a few thousand dots, but no big deal. All right, so see, this is kind of the lighter area of this trunk right here. It should be noted that when I move into my lighter, you know, maybe the white pen or something like that, I'm not adding as many of these dots, okay, because it stands out. Those lighter ones going to stand out more in terms of contrast, so I'm a little bit, you know, I apply those a little more sparingly. But this is the counterpart to all of that pigment ink application. So the pigment ink is a very soft application of a tone and lighting. This is like a crisp one right here. And now this is a big scene too. Not that I'm trying to make, you know, like excuses why this is taking a while, but you know, this is a 5x7, so it's a 10x7. So you know, almost like a full page type of scene right here. But you can see the lighting is really doing in here. It's really bringing the it brings the imagery to life in terms of lighting and kind of just visual variety and texture like that. And boy, you know, some of these dots sure look different in the different values in here. Some of it looks really blue, and some of it looks almost like white, you know, where I applied it into that lighter area. Like that. All right, now we have all these trees in the background here too. I don't know if I want like just dots on all those ones. Let me try to go in with some of my pastel pencil here. Now I only have this one pastel pencil, but these pastel pencils come in different colors too. So you could try, like, if you have a blue one, or a light blue one would be ideal, like that. Let's see. Hello, Christine. How are you? Yeah, why? Yeah, it's I don't know how many people are watching, but yeah, to have so many lefties in here, maybe that says something. Just in terms of the overall percentages of people who are lefty. How many? What is the? Does anyone know the statistics on lefty to righty? Okay, so I'm kind of adding a little bit of highlights to these trees in here, and this white does stand out quite a bit. So it's pastel, so you can kind of just do a little bit of, you know, like finger blending and smudging in here. So right in here, there's these lighter pines right in here, okay? And I'll try to bring those out a little bit, at least on the left-hand side of them, okay? I'll probably go in and add some of the paint pen work in there, but this will kind of give me a little bit of a head start and some ideas on where to add that in there. Okay. Our temperatures are cooling down a little bit from earlier this week, but is it hot where anyone is still? Even Berit, who was on earlier, she was saying that it's hot over there too, and she lives overseas. She was saying that it's cooled down a little bit in the last couple of days, where it's like easier to breathe. But we're doing a nice cool, you know, still a cool temperature, you know, themed scene here. Although I did used to love the heat in many ways. Not sitting at home, but I used to like going, you know, I'm a total desert rat. I love going and hiking and camping in the desert. I don't want to camp in 110, but I don't mind going out and hiking like at nighttime and, you know, 90s and stuff like that in the desert. I love it. All right, so see this, the way this is going here, I'm just kind of adding those little bits like that right on those trees, and there's these rocks down here as well. In some ways, this pastel pencil is almost like adding that, you know, that white pigment ink. Not this one, that's the black one, but the white pigment ink smudging down there. It's kind of giving me just kind of a general application of light, you know, where I'll kind of define it better, you know, going forward with the other types of media in here. 10% are left-handed. I didn't realize it was so large of a percentage there. I've never looked into it or thought about it, but I'm just thinking about, when I was like in elementary school or something like that, or even when I was working with the volunteer art program in my son's middle school. I'm trying to remember how many of those like scissors in those packs were like lefty versions. I remember like growing, in elementary school where, there was like 20, 25 kids in my classes. I remember I think there were only like two. Well, I guess that would be, I guess that would be two or three. So I guess that'd be 10% like that in terms of lefty to righty. Brutally hot here in Houston. Yeah, that'll be for your whole summer though, right, Chris? My question is it hotter than normal? Or, you know what I mean? Than in the past. I'm just kind of curious, about that. It seems like there's so many like strange weather patterns these days, with like huge amounts of rain in some, areas and flooding, during certain times of year. All right, so there's our kind of general kind of applications right back in there. Let's see. %. Okay, what is it? Houston's hot. Brutally hot. It's humid there too, right, Chris? No, wait a minute. There's more male lefties than female? That's interesting. So for any of the lefties in here, were you taught how to do things righty for a while too? I know some lefties. I remember some lefties that I knew were kind of ambidextrous because they were kind of naturally righty. I mean, lefty, but then they were taught how to do things with their right, I think. So they can do it both. I seem to recall one or two people like that. Or where it was like, it was kind of strange. They did something right, or they ate with their left but then they wrote with their right, you know what I mean, or something kind of bizarre like that, just because they I don't know, they might have been forced into it or something like that when they were younger. I don't know, or something like that. There was something kind of bizarre I remember with one of my friends. All right, so I'm adding in, I want to do some of this additional lighting like right back in here, okay, on some of these trees. All right, so Candy's 87. Oh, that's at 745. Yeah, it's getting a little bit cooler around here. Mountain lions and bears. The only thing I'm a little bit, scared of are the lions. Now, I wouldn't want bears either, but I typically didn't go hiking in areas with bears. Where there's, there's a lot of, well, not a lot compared to other areas, but there's plenty of areas in California with bears. But in this one area of Southern California in the mountains and high elevation, I think it was just known to not have bears, probably because, I don't know, probably in, whatever, over the years, maybe they were all kind of like hunted out of there or something like that. And that's in this area called Idlewild, so I used to go camping up there all the time. But the mountain lions, though, in areas that I'd been hiking to, it was like things came out where there was like a couple attacks. And then one time I was out in Joshua Tree at this water source. I've mentioned this in other live streams, but in this area I used to go hiking to that had a year-round water source. I was out there one time, and then the next time I was out there, there was like two carcasses of bighorn sheep that were, attacked, I'm sure, and eaten by, the only thing that can get them is the mountain lion. So it's like, oh my God. And that was like right after these mountain bikers had been attacked at this other place that I'd been hiking to before, like a couple different times. one lady was getting dragged into the trees, and they were able to separate her from that mountain lion. You know, with these other mountain bikers. It was a really popular area too. You know, a lot of mountain bikers and hikers, and all of that happened around the same time. So it's like I've been a little bit paranoid about mountain lions since then. So it really hit close to home. All right, so adding in some more of this lighting right down in here. You can see it's kind of coming together, you know, slowly but surely here. Never gets down below 78 at night, yeah. This pastel pencil horsey girl is a Schwan, Schwan Stabilo, I don't know, whatever. Stabilo. And then the pencil's called a Carbothello, one word. Carb, like, you know, eating carbs. And then Othello. I noticed these pencils come in like sets too. It might be like a different brand these days too. Those art brands tend to change hands a lot, and this pencil's probably like 30 years old, I'm guessing. It was like in my my art toolkit, you know, which looks like a tackle box, you know, fisherman's tackle box, but for art supplies. It's like, oh, look, you know, what is this, you know? Maybe I can use it for something. Okay, so we're going in here into this grassy shoreline area, okay? So I've added in those shadow areas right in here, okay? So at the bottom of those shadow areas, like that, it's going to be the next, you know, kind of raised grass area, okay? So what I'm doing is at the bottom of those shadows, I'm adding in a little bit of highlighting like that, okay? That might be a little bit too much, but I'm just kind of doing it to emphasize that. You know, just so you can see it like that, okay? So this is a little bit darker over here, so I just put a little bit of it right there. And again, this is looking really soft in here without kind of any definition at all, but I'm going to put these foreground images in here that are nice and crisp, and we'll add in our, you know, additional highlighting in there with the paint pens too. So I'm just hoping that the paint pens can apply over the top of this, you know, without any problem. I can go out and spray seal it though, and that'll take care of it too, which maybe I'll do. I don't know if my paint pens keep clogging on me, you know, if this pastel pencil keeps going up into the tip. So that being said, a workable fixative over the top of this whole thing would be good to do after you're done with it, if you're using the pastel pencils on here. If you're just using the colored pencils and inks and things like that, the wet media, then you don't need to really seal this off. You know, everything's going to be adhered to the surface unless you want to. All right, so let's see. Let's add a little bit of this is a little bit lighter than that background paper, so I'm going to add some of this down, or the foundation paper, okay? See that little bit of that white up here, and then the blue is a little bit of a transition like that, so. You know, depending on what you're drawing this on, you know, as long as it's lighter than the surface, it's kind of like you're highlighting, you know, color, or it could be. All right, there we go, like that. All right, let's go back to like putting you all to sleep here, or it's like, you know, mass exodus, you know what I mean? All right, let's go back and add in some additional highlighting in here. I have my kind of highlights established right back in there too. I don't know if I need any of this color back in there, but the white pen for sure. Let's see. None of the scissors were lefty. What do you mean in your class? And 10% of the lefties are ambidextrous. Is that the statistic there? Yeah. I, yeah, like I said, I'd heard that. I wondered how people were able to do that though. It's like, wow, you can. I'm trying to think of what that was. It was maybe someone threw righty, but wrote lefty or something like that. I always found that fascinating that they were able to do that. All right, so this little highlighting on these trees I think is looking pretty good, or is really kind of being effective, so I will add some of that into that. So it just brings those trees to life, I think. That texturing like that. I'm kind of being a little bit delicate because these little dots stand out pretty good on here, even though this is like it's a light blue, but it's still like a, I don't know, maybe like a 20% blue. Maybe this is the dark. Okay, this was the darker one. That's why. Oh, let's just keep going with the light one though. Lighter one. All right, so there's some little highlights. When I bring those windows out, that's really going to bring that cabin to life a lot. We as lefties teach ourselves to use right-handed tools. Oh, yeah, yeah. Are there more? There's got to be more options these days, though, right? Um, for uh, for everyone that's lefty. All right, some little highlights. Let's see these side of the trees. See these side of the trees right here. The moon is to the left of them, so they're being left side illuminated. Trees over to the left are being right side illuminated. Okay. And what about in the crafting industry? Are there tools like specifically left, righty or something like that? I'm curious about that. Everything is kind of whatever, whatever. What do you call it? I'm trying to think if there was any types of tools in the crafting or stamping industry specifically. I'm wondering, the like stamp positioners are all, you know what I mean, this way or whatever. I know, is there like a cricket or, you know what I mean, something like that that's more focused on one all right, adding a little bit of highlights like that. See, I'm able to go with like some lighter highlights on here. The lighter everything becomes because, it doesn't stand out as much. So it's, kind of makes sense from a textural or lighting, maybe more lighting standpoint like that. Okay. All right, let's add in some of this down here into the grasses. For those of you in the heat, this scene is roughly a nice, cool 55 or 50 degree night right here. Or maybe 55, you know, where you can go and take a nice stroll at night and, you know, I mean, somewhat crisp air, but it's not, you know what I mean? You're not having to bundle up or something like that. We'll say it's that, you know, it's that kind of like nice night evening walk temperature, whatever temperature, you know, you find ideal for that. That's what it is. All right. As I'm doing this here, talking about textures, I want to add in some of my little tiny rocks stamp in here. Let's see. That'll bring a little bit of different, a little bit of a slightly different textural form within this space right here. All right, let's add some into that water too. See this water right in here? It's all kind of a uniform type of texture. Let's go with some of that just right in there. Okay, it's really dark right now, but it'll dry and it'll get a little bit lighter looking. Okay, but I just needed some little variation in there, I thought. Okay. Debbie, you got so used to using the righties, huh? Take the lefty and like flip it upside down then. Teachers, okay, someone on the Twitter the other day asked, how do you folks in the South stand it when it stays hot for months? You do get used to it and everything is air conditioned, yeah. People acclimate, huh? It's when there's those times that they're like out of the norm, you know, in terms of you know, extraordinarily, you know, hot or cold or for, you know, like really extended periods or something like that, it seems. Whenever, you know, there's like any kind of temperature extremes or anything like that, I always think to my trips up to Maine, you know, just kind of shooting the breeze with some people before or after a class or something like that. And over there in, I don't know, around this one place that I visited a few times, or well, maybe not a few times, or twice. I was talking to some of them, and they were talking about these power outages, like during the winter time that can last for like, you know, it wasn't out of the question for it to, you know, to lose power for like a week. You know, it's whatever, some transformer or something like that going down. You know, in the dead of winter, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, I don't know, it happens. It's like, okay, that was no big deal to them. You know, it might be kind of unusual because someone was bringing it up with someone else. Oh yeah, you know, did you guys have that? You know, were you guys in that power outage? You know, or whatever last month or something like that. So, not like really common, but it's like, man, they're like tough there. So I just don't complain about weather, hot or cold. Of course, we have our preferences, though. Okay, I'm going with my lighter blue here. But one of the things about stamping, you know, you can be connected up with so many different stampers around the world, and I've been just, my gosh, it's like I didn't know you know, so many people that have been affected by floods before, but over the past, like, I don't know, even going back like 10 years, I don't know, it was Melbourne, Australia, I think it was, I knew stampers that just got completely flooded out, lost their place. Stamp manufacturers might have been gone, you know, at a show one weekend and going back, and it's like their entire warehouse is like flooded out. And this is like fairly recently. It might have been like last year or 2 years ago. Yeah, it's been so crazy. All right, so let's see. That's the blues in there. See how we're getting kind of crisper in here, and things are a little bit more defined. Some of our even silhouette trees, you can put a little highlight on them like that. You know, like these ones in here if you want to. It's not a light tree, so I don't put too many highlights on them, especially if it's over a dark area. It's dark on dark, but you know, to make them look a little bit more three-dimensional, you can put a few little highlights on them like that. You know, just to make them stand out a little bit more, but I don't know if you can see that right there on that one, and like right up in here. Here, let's put a few more on these ones that are closer to the moon. So that's just, you know, those are little things that you can do, you know, to bring in this, you know, it looks a little bit more three-dimensional that way. Let's see here. I think it's time. Or maybe it isn't. Here, I was going to do the windows in here that are really going to stand out quite a bit. Let me get some of this texturing on some of these moon, whatever, crater textures. About like that. Because yeah, I'm not picking up too much of that. I was thinking, man, my whole side of this hand might be all inky, but it's not too bad. Maybe it's because it's a matte, you know, paper that's really absorbing a lot of the ink. If I was doing this on like a semi-gloss or a glossy cardstock, my hand would be like really coated in here because everything stays much more surface oriented. All right, let's do this here. Let's add in, I'm going to do this in this warmer, slightly beige color than the white in those windows, just to bring in, I don't know if you're really able to tell or if I'm going to be able to tell even sitting right here, but just tweaking, it's tweaking the temperature scheme in here a little bit by having something kind of warm on the interior like that. Let's see here. Glad you like it, Candy. It's coming around a little bit, you know. Back in the day, we had no choice. Used to write upside down. How's that? How do you do that? I can see where people do that thing where they're writing like, you know, cursive back like this, you know, do that thing like that, and it's the hands are kind of mirroring each other. I think the heat index makes it feel hotter. Oh, okay. And earlier in the summer. Yeah, humid. I've been to, like I said, I was mentioning this in a previous live stream, but, you know, always heard about, you know, Florida's humidity. And I went down there during like one summer. It was like super humid. It was in the Orlando area. And then and I think the most humid that I've been in, I thought, was one time when I was teaching in Oklahoma, though. You know, I'm not saying that Oklahoma is more humid. I was just that time that I went there. It was like, oh my God, you know. But I felt it. And other trips to Florida, too. Okay, let's see if I can get this right here. It's kind of hard to see some of these windows in here because this paper is just so dark, but I should go get my glasses here. All right, let's see here. I need a little bit more light here. I have this extra light here on my desk. There's probably a lot of glare on this. Actually, it doesn't look too bad on screen. Let's see here. Sometimes when I'm doing these videos, I lose my like detail vision because I have so much glare coming up at my face all the time here. So when I'm doing this like super specific areas of applications, I can't see. Okay, I think that's a little bit crooked, but here, let me like wipe some of that off right there. And then there's this window on the side of this cabin. All right, I think I got totally off on that one. Off the window. All right, there we go. That's not great, but I'll adjust that. Okay, now we have these windows right here, so I'm going to illuminate some of these rocks right down in here. And I can go for like a really small application of some of this right in here. With these paint pens, you just give it a little bit of a more delicate whatever tap. All right. Yeah, I'm all crooked in there. Let me see something here. There we go. Uniball Signo pen. Oh, if I squint, I could see it better. Okay, there. It kind of crisp. Yeah, it made crisp my little dots in there a little bit more. There we go. Like that. Okay. There, let me go like this. I have that little gridded thing in the windows. I forgot what they call it. Light. How many lights are in the window or something like that? Okay, there we go. So I'm going warm in the windows here. Because if you have a slightly warm tinge in there, it becomes a little bit more welcoming to have that warm light in there like that. Okay. Okay, let's see. Younger brother were lefties. Your dad and younger brother. Okay. My brother batted righty but caught and threw as a lefty. Yes, yeah. See, that's the interesting thing I find about lefties is that, you know what I mean? They might do other things, you know. Are certainly going to be much more ambidextrous than probably righties will ever be. You know what I mean? I don't think any righty, you know what I mean, can like throw left at all. Unless, you know, somehow they've been practicing that or something like that, doing like tons of reps. But yeah, okay. That's interesting though, with the, you know, within the same, within that sport, like that, batted and caught. I would have thought they would, oh, okay, so yeah, well, like in baseball, they call them like switch hitters, right? No one in the pros does that, but yeah. But he caught and threw. Okay, that caught and threw is a lefty. That makes sense. But he never batted lefty though, too. It seems like okay. So your brother would have been like the perfect person to be like a switch hitter. But if he only batted righty, that would be interesting. Or that is interesting. He would change hands when writing when he got tired. So Jennifer, I wonder if did he sign sometimes? He probably always signed one way though, right? because I'm just kind of curious to know if you know, if he signed his name like two different areas, you know, or two different ways, if it would look like a different person. It'd probably have to, right? Because the slope would be different, right? I would think. He got in big trouble until they figured it out, made him be right. Oh, that's what? That's it. You're talking about in his classrooms or something like that. He got in trouble because they thought it was like someone else. What is that? It's that science of like handwriting analysis. Uh, it's not icon something. Ophi. I can't remember what it's called. What's that thing? The science of like handwriting um, analysis. There was this book out there that was called something like, you know, you can tell something. You might be able to tell people's certain types of things about their personality from looking at. I don't think printing, but I think it was handwriting. Like closed spaces, or you know how long people's ascenders and descenders are, or something like that. But then my question was, okay, well, if you can tell kind of something about someone's personality that way, if they changed their handwriting, would they thus change their, you know, their personality? Or is it, you know, that's what I was kind of curious about. And I think there was a book. I think I was looking at this like 20, 30 years ago or something like that. And I think there was a book called something like Change Your Handwriting, Change Your Life, or something like that. Which might have just been a metaphor for if you're just like consciously making some kind of change to something that was like an everyday type of activity, you know, and like a, you know, your handwriting kind of stays the same, you know, throughout your lifetime, if you would thus be changing something about, you know, or altering your personality or tweaking it a little bit. All right, so a little bit of highlighting on the tops of that roof right there, capturing a little bit more of that light like that. And again, it's just kind of introducing some more of these kind of like crisp elements into, you know, what had been kind of a really soft field. By the way, I'm on white now. That. We'll add a little bit more of the shimmer into the water. You know, that like sparkly little touch on like the water's surface is the thing that kind of, you know, makes you know, surface a little bit more dazzling, be it moonlight or, you know, like a sunset light or something like that. It's that shimmering kind of look to it. So that's, you know, if you haven't tried, you know, some of these pens before, I would, you know, highly recommend it. It can really bring some areas to life just by really extending the textural range of your pieces. It adds in, you know, a lot of three-dimensional qualities to it, and it's lighting at the same time. Okay, like I said, I'll add a, you know, maybe a little bit more selective in terms of, you know, how much I add in with the lightest of tones in here, you know, which is this white. So my other blue ones didn't even stand up against that kind of light area of that tree, but, you know, the white one does because it's light enough for it. Okay. But again, if you're doing this, you know, it's all about kind of transitioning a little bit. When you first start doing this, it seems like it's just in like a lot of us to, it's like when we start adding these little dots down here, if you look at people's, when they first start out, and with me too, if I'm not thinking about it, consciously doing this. But see, I'm kind of clustering some areas. And then what you do is you transition it out by spacing it, putting it a little bit more sparse, because when people first start doing this, we tend to start adding it and we evenly space it out like that. Okay, so it's like I don't even have to make an effort to that. It's just everything's like a certain, you know, spacing in there. And it's especially true if people are adding in stars. So when doing highlighting, you just kind of cluster it, and then the spaces between the dots get more spread out as you move into the those darker areas. So a little bit more clustered like this in the light, and then you space it out like that. Okay. But the biggest thing is just to hold it at an arm's distance, and you can get you can get your bearings on how what you're doing is affecting the overall. Because when we do this too, we're like focused in on this little half-inch space, as you're adding this down, and you got to look at the overall too, to get, again, to get your kind of bearings on, how those little dots of light are affecting, your overall piece. Okay. All right. So I'm not having any problem going over any of that pastel pencil at all. Sometimes when you start going over, if those pastel pencil kind of build up, it kind of starts going into your tip. But, just do a little scribble out, and it should, get it flowing again. All right, now let me add some of this up into my moon. Get a little bit of a little bit more lighting up there. I guess I need to transition in my moon too. I didn't think I needed to quite so much, but those little dots really stand out up there like that. I guess the moon isn't quite as light as I thought it was. It's a little bit darker. All right, so I think that's looking pretty decent. We'll do a little tweaks in here, but I'm going to add in, hopefully, something that's going to really, bring things together even more so with, some additional crisp foreground imagery. Okay, so this area is kind of crawling with little dots like that. Okay, but I want to bring in some extra... Oh, here, let's do a little bit more white pigment ink now too, I think. So we're going to let a little bit of diffusion with the lighting in there, with the white pigment that's laid down, which is like a soft application of lightness. Then we've added a crisper application with, the different colors of pens. Now let's go back to the white. Now I'm not going to add in a ton of it, just... this is going to represent something else too. It represents kind of like mist, where right in here is representing more like lighting on the objects and areas. Let me see right here. My grandpa was a chemistry teacher, ambidextrous, and would write on the chalkboard and never move. He just changed. So he'd write over, and then he would just extend it over like that. So he was taking like advantage of his whole wingspan then, huh? As they say. My brother is lefty, but he plays golf as a righty. Yeah, see, how does that happen? Unless people that are lefties are, what I mean? It's just kind of like, here's righty and here's lefty. And here's the middle right here. But maybe some people are just like lefty like that much or something like that. You know what I mean? Where they can still, do all these other types of applications. It seems like with golf, yeah, like driving like that. But he always felt more comfortable just obviously, right? Like swinging right. Or is it just, got like some clubs that were, righty to begin with or something like that. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, because all that, like, with golf, it's the drives, and then the putting is like a whole other thing. Huh. Now I wonder if he could, if he wanted to. I wonder if he can play golf lefty. I mean, he's already kind of, you know what I mean? You know, situated with that. But yeah, that's interesting. Or something like golf, you know, with that exacting type of motion, or like if someone was like playing pool or something like that. All right, let's see here. All right. Let me just add a little bit more up in my moon, like that. Let's add a little bit of like, oh, kind of like fog or mist right down here again. So the difference between this is I'm going to be coming up into my imagery now with some of this white pigment, whereas just kind of illuminating, you know, the page down below or something like that before. Now let's come in here and add that fog or mist, you know, in this case, you know, rising off the surface. It's a little bit too much right there. That. Oh, you know what it is right here? I'm trying to add some right down in here, but I have all that waxy colored pencil in here. So that pigment ink wasn't applying to the wax as much. Or, yeah. It looks like it is a little bit, but not quite that much. That's why it's like up here where I didn't add it. Okay, so let's keep that in mind here. Let's do something like here. Let's bring in a little bit of mist right around this tree trunk. Okay, I got too much ink on this. So I'm just kind of adding this right around in here, or trying to. Let's see if it works. So it's kind of a little bit more atmospherics right around in here. Like that. I got a kind of a blob of white right there, so I'm kind of trying to blend it out a little bit. There's some area of my cotton ball that has too much ink on it. Okay, let's leave it at that, and then I think let's just leave that over there. Let's leave well enough alone. I'm looking right here. I think that looks fine as is. That's soft enough, I think. All right. All right, let's see here. Okay, I'm going to have this overhanging branch in here, like this. This is like a perfect spot for a little quote like I did on this page, but I think I like the idea of these overhanging tree branches in there, though, so I don't know. If there's room for some kind of quote or some kind of thing right in there, I'll add that in later. But this back of the card needs some sort of focal point. Now, Candy, how did you know that about your grandpa? Or did he just say? That is a cool story. Let's see here. Switch, hit, and ball. Okay, it was, yeah. According to the picture, right. Writing on a chalkboard is a skill. When I was a baby teacher, I had to learn, and they expected you to write in good cursive. Ah, yeah. I don't know if my son writes in cursive at all. My son just graduated high school, and I think we were talking about that. I mean, he knows how, but I don't think they ever did that. everything is being, you know, throughout, I don't know, from maybe, it couldn't have been from middle school. I was going to say, I was wondering if they just submitted everything online, you know, typing. I wondered how he learned how to type. You know, when I was in high school, I took like typing classes. My mom tried to teach me at home. You know, she wanted me to do that, but I don't know. I never got around to it. So I just took a semester of high school. One of those classes was typing. I don't know, but he seems to use like correct form. You know, not the you know, the two-fingered type of technique. So I always wondered where that came from. Or if just, I don't know, kids have been, you know, kids just know that now. Okay, so I'm going with the ArtFoamy and that same ink. Okay, let me see. Let me get my bearings here. So this is, it's going like this right here. Okay, I'm going to use a pretty good portion of this one this time. This is going about like this. I'm going to go in front of that moon a little bit. Your signature looks like a doctor's signing, huh? I have to consciously think about it when I'm writing something that mine doesn't look like a doctor's, you know, signing. Sometimes, like especially with my last name, it's just so long, even though I've been writing it forever. But sometimes, you know, by the time I get to like the G, it's like, you know, just like it tails off, you know. Which usually doesn't matter, but if I don't know, I'm signing like one of my pieces or something like that, I don't want it to look all junky and stuff, you know, when I'm giving something to someone. Okay, now here's this overhanging leaf. Now I'm going to kind of angle it a little bit like this because it's coming in from the other side here. Let's see, injured my hand when I was 7. No choice about working out how to use my left hand for a while when I could use my right. I would have trouble knowing which hand to use. That's interesting. So you learned it kind of early enough to where, you know what I mean? You can use both then because of that time then, Horsey Girl? Yeah, B for Bonnie. That would be a good. Yeah, that's a good capital letter right there to have in there. I forgot what letter I used to like doing in cursive. That, you know, that wasn't in my name. I'm trying to think in like 3rd grade. There was some kind of letter form that I really liked. It's like, oh, too bad, you know, I don't have that like that one in my name. I forgot what it was. All right, so there we go. So I was making kind of longer impressions there because I really want that to apply and adhere to the surface here. And I'm stamping it over, you know, colored pencil and pigment ink, acrylic paint pen in there. So a little bit more dimensional. Let me get the... I'm looking for my Reed's ArtFoamies stamp, which is somewhere in here. Yeah. Okay, found it. All right, so here's the Reed's. It's just a little bit larger than, you know, this one right here. I guess quite a bit larger, but this will give us a little bit more dimension here in the foreground. And again, everything was looking like really, really fuzzy, you know, after the first few applications of media, you know, especially with just the white pigment ink. But this is where everything, you know, comes together, like in the last step that you do. not quite. I think this scene really started coming together with the use of the acrylic paint pens, these little highlights on here and things like that. Oh, a sign painter. Wow. That's cool, Debbie. I love hand-painted signs. There was this town in near where I grew up, San Luis Obispo, in like the central coast of California. And downtown, there was some kind of ordinance where all the signs had to be like hand done, you know what I mean? For, I don't know, whatever, continuity and stuff. It really gave a nice flavor to the town. But that's where I first started paying attention to hand done lettering. And at the time, I was in like graphic arts classes and doing like a lot of printing and things like that, silk screening. So I really had appreciation for hand done pieces like that, and signage especially. All right, so see that little crisp little element like that, how much dimension it gives. Now that looks like, that stands out, but it's going, that black there is going to get, it's going to be like that black right there, or this one in the background. It looks a little bit darker now because it's wet. I mean, you can see these trees up here, like those leaves. It soaked into the paper a little bit more, but you know, you still get, you know, a decent amount of dimension up there from that. Okay, now see, this is like a, for those that don't know, this is like a folded card like this, okay? So here's the front, and you know, here's the back like this, okay? And then we're looking at it open up like that. So I'm going to frame this piece off with some additional reeds right in here so that it frames off just this portion of it, okay? Because you want it to read as its own, you know, kind of independent visual in here. In addition to, you know, being a good, whatever, full page spread, full card spread, I guess. Like that. Okay, so that'll look like this right here. I'm kind of avoiding folding this over completely because I want, you know, to be able to stamp some additional things in here before I fold it over. That, go like this maybe. And let's go for some additional reeds over here. I don't know if this is going to show up on here. It'll show up while it's wet, but it might just completely blend in with the background. You know, because this tree is so dark, this trunk right here. And as you know, might notice as I'm doing this, as I'm doing this, from one impression to the next, I'm kind of changing the angle and also changing the height of it a little bit, like that. So this one was up here, and then there was two more impressions like that. This one was like this, and then it looks like right down here, like that, and again like that. So it's like that, okay? All right, and this really needs something in here. This is, you know, these two things right here are really like a really strong visual kind of focal point of the piece. But this one right here, you know, it's like a stage without its, you know, a little character in here. So let's get something stamped in there. I think I'm going to do this little kayaker right in here. You know, it was like a 85 here today, so this kayaker is going out at night. All right. Do I want that, or let me see. Huh. Like there's a deer in here too. That would be really, this one's a little bit, this one's like way too small. it'd be like the, yeah, like this. It'd be like this, though. They're facing that way, though. Yeah, maybe that way. I don't know. Do you guys have a preference? It needs something, though. I'm not gonna do. I don't want to do. Can't do. I'm not gonna do none or neither, because this card right here, or that half of the card, if looked just alone. I guess either. I don't know. To me, it's either one. I think they're both in scale with each other just fine. But let's see. There's an college pitcher who can throw. Wow. So someone's a switch thrower with 90 miles per hour on both sides. Wow, that would be amazing. They probably killed it in like high school. Okay, I'm reading down on your comments right here. Lefties, sign painters dragging their hands through the thing. Yeah, that's like with cursive too, huh? Hello, Denise. How are you? Do you all turn your papers sideways to write? I do, I think. I definitely turned it that way sideways to stamp and turn it all over. But yeah, I turned my paper to I almost never, write straight up. That's awkward, it's not ergonomic. I mean, we can see it right here, my paper's like totally, it's usually like that, like this. Let's see. 30 days of over 100. 100, that's in a row, Denise? Okay, I'm almost getting down here. Candy's mom can write with her toes. Righty or lefty. So I wonder if, yeah, people that are writing with their feet, you know what I mean? If they're, some of them are ambidextrous and can do that. I remember we used to see people doing that on this show called, like, That's Incredible. Anyone remember that? But I think there was the toe or feet writers. Okay, let's see. Oh, Bonnie has a wicked curveball. We're going to start a rubber stamp softball team or baseball team here. No, it wasn't orthography. Graphology. I think that was it. Yeah, graphology, huh? Okay, let's see. Yeah, I don't know if the kids are even writing in cursive anymore. Can you remember the days with the, like, I think I used to have little penmanship or something like that, but not like I know, like in the old days where like penmanship was like, like a subject. I've often thought that would be a good idea to do, with writing. Okay, I'm scrolling down. I'm seeing if people have preferences on this. Bonnie can shoot pool either hand. Wow. Yeah, the lighter it got, I think, and two, one of the things is too, Chris, is I added in all these darker elements like this. So by contrast, the lighters seem lighter like that too. Okay, let's see. I don't sell the foam stamps, but you can get those at ArtFoamies. What is it, artfoamies.com or something like that? Deer or jumping fish. Okay, well, Chris is the only one that said anything. I think I'm going to go with the deer then. All right. when I thought about that kayaker, I thought that's pretty good, but then I thought, maybe let's go with something more of a, I don't know. And the deer's facing the correct way. I want something facing that way towards like the cabin here. So it's just a matter of, I don't want that head to be going up into that darkness right back in here. So I'm going to have to stamp them a little bit lower. And then see this, their feet down here. I think I'm going to put them in like a little bit of that foggy mist like that. Okay, so maybe I'll see if I can give it a little bit of a head start here by inking this up and then wiping off the base like this. So speaking of, the ArtFoamies were a really good one. Well, first of all, they have these larger trees, Stampscapes types of trees like this for, larger formats. So this is 7 inches, and this, that one trunk is well within that space. It could even gone like taller if I wanted to, but I was working around this crease here too in the pre-folded card, and the foamy can contour right around that thing. I think if this was a rubber stamp and I stamped it across this raised kind of crease in this pre-folded card, I would have had this big space on each side of it where the tree didn't stamp out. Now we could fill it in, with a colored pencil too, but the ArtFoamy just kind of contours to all irregularities a lot easier than a, stiff piece of rubber on an acrylic block. All right, so there we go, like that. I think that looks pretty good. Good choice there. Good call, Chris, or whoever else was thinking that. And for those that wanted the kayak, imagine they're like back over here. I could have put something in here, but I thought that's getting a little bit busy. We have the moon, the cabin. I like that kind of sparkling little area too. I felt it was like, there was enough stuff going on in there without having some other type of focal point in there. Although it would look okay, to put them in there as well. But if I had the kayaker going in here, I'd want some kind of like, boating person like going that way. Okay. So let's see. Okay, I was gonna say I think I'm gonna have to wait to add in this white, but let's just do it right now and hope that that's dry enough. Or here, let me zap it. All right, and a little bit of white pigment ink again, like this. This white pigment ink pad is getting really, really dry. But maybe that's good, in terms of the rate of application with it. Let me see. See, I stamp with my right, but I fog with my left. No. For those that are ambidextrous, you can be doing this. You can be doing this with this one hand, like highlighting, and then you can be doing like soft highlighting, sharp highlighting, or you can go, darker highlighting, crisper like this. That'd be really cool. There was this book called Drawing, I think it was Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And it was by Betty Edwards. And I always saw that book in stores, and I was always kind of intrigued by it. And I always thought, that'd be cool to take her class. And then when I got to Long Beach State, she was a professor there, But it wasn't a class for art majors. It was just like a general ed class if someone wanted to take it. I forgot what, it took care of. Something, I don't know, one of your humanities, general eds or something like that. But I did have a roommate that took the class. But that was one where they were oftentimes they were flipping pieces upside down and like drawing, what they were looking at. They'd flip like a portrait of someone upside down or something like that. And it, not necessarily related to lefty righty or something like that, but I think their point was it was like accessing a different hemisphere of the brain or something like that. Or instead of thinking about, okay, I'm drawing an eye, they saw things as more like shapes, and they were able to render something a lot more effectively, without that notion of what that object was, so they were just kind of focusing on the shapes instead, and things that are drawing, much more accurately like that, when you were focused in on something like that. And I don't know, when I'm doing things like this and I'm kind of twirling and I'm working on my pieces, I am looking at this piece in probably a little bit of a different way. So, speaking of, do you tilt your papers or something like that? When you're working on scenes and cards or something like that, it's probably a good idea to look at it from different angles, and you might be able to see something that way that you don't see maybe if you're only looking at it from one aspect, or one angle. All right, but anyway, I think that is our scene there. I wasn't quite sure where it was going, when I laid down that white in there. It was like, I mean, I knew the process, but I just haven't done it for a while, so it's just kind of like hoping that, the end result would look pretty decent. I haven't done it for a while, and I was thinking, okay, I know the process and I know, how it's supposed to come together, but I just haven't done it for a while, and everything was looking like muddled and everything like that, which things often do, in certain types of processes. But it's pretty fun to do like this, and it doesn't, this scene, I mean, it's practically like a full page scene too, and it's, like I said, it's 5x7 double page spread like that. Like I don't know what they call it, like a splash page if you're opening up a magazine or a comic book or something like that, and something's like across both pages like that. But again, I think you have a lot of options with this type of thing too. This is like a card on the front, okay, and then your back, and then it's like that. But I think this also would be a really fantastic piece if this was the front of the card and someone opened it up like this. That would be a pretty dramatic type of reveal. So you can say your greetings right here, and then you say, this is where you write your dear whoever, whatever, hope you like the card, and, you say, you made it, do not throw this away. Right on there, you know what I mean? Love, whoever, like that. But yeah, it's kind of it's a little bit of a different thing, and it kind of enters in like sequencing, like visual sequencing or visual, sequential aesthetics. Okay, where it's like a card. If you have it on one side, you open it up and it's boom. You know what I mean? Which is the standard, of course. But in this one, it's a little bit like intro, body, conclusion type of thing too. Or, like this would be like begin intro, and this would be like the the climax or something like that. And then you have in the back, it's just, you're finishing it off. Hope you had a great time at the on your trip to the lake or something like that. Love whoever type of thing. So it's like 1, 2, 3. When this is on the front, it's like one scene, two. Oh, it's in the back. 2 scenes, 3 scenes, because it has a different feel to it. So, it's pretty fun. You're just taking advantage of the folded format of a card base there to do that with. Let's see. Mouth and Foot Painters of America. That sounds pretty cool. I've seen some videos on YouTube, I think. I didn't know there was a like a whatever organization with them though. But I've seen people doing the mouth paintings. Really amazing stuff. Some of the stuff's like super detailed too. Jennifer always moves the paper. Yeah, you got to move that paper. People that don't move the paper as much though these days, and I really like the process too because it's like printmaking, but it's like the with the the misties and the stamp positioners and things like that. But again, it's like fun because it's almost like a printing press or something like that. That whole the process. But I don't know. Maybe if you're doing like a misty or something like that, maybe check it check out your card pieces that you're doing from different angles as well. Take a look at it from, especially look at it upside down or something like that and see if there's any kind of tweaks you'd want to make that you didn't notice, maybe right side up or something like that. And that would be pretty beneficial, I think, just in general. Patty would love to get a card like that. Yeah, isn't it fun, having something like that? Um, something on the front and back. Again, I don't know. I don't do that too often, but like I said, I was looking at this piece right here, and I was saying I need to do that again because it's really fun. It's a different thing, you know what I mean? When you're like I said, with like the reflection cards and the like the horizon cards, but back of the card too. You know what I mean? And again, it's like sequencing something. And I mean, it's like a little tweak too. You know what I mean? Instead of just doing a half page scene, you're just folding it in half, but you're seeing it as like three different types of elements right here. So again, this one right in the center, I probably wouldn't have done that had I just thought of this card as just one piece, okay, but I'm thinking about it like in terms of the folds and seeing these two pieces separately. So this one in the center is the thing that's framing off this a little bit better. If this was just being done on a scene just to be viewed, like a half page scene or a full page scene, this tree probably would have been moved over a little bit more, so it's a little bit, I mean, it's not center. Okay, this is the center right here. So it's left of center, but I probably would have bumped it over there even more so had this not been had I not had to consider that fold and, the viewing, whatever, sequences with it. Oh, thanks, Bonnie. Yeah, hit the thumbs up there. I'd appreciate it. In case unless you hated it, then what do they say? Then hit the thumbs. Then hit the thumbs down twice or something like that. I don't know what they said. So there's some kind of joke on other videos like that. You'd put the picture on the inside. Yeah, I'm starting to think that too, Jennifer. It'd be a pretty big reveal. You know what I mean? For someone to open it up like that. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think I might be kind of, my gut feeling might be a little bit more towards that though too. So it depends on what you want someone to look at, as they're taking this out of the envelope too, you know what I mean? And there's something too, something a little bit less quiet, like this, like, whatever the greeting might be or something like that. And then boom. So if it's like a movie, yeah, definitely more of like a climax type of a moment right in there, like that. Let's see. The Mouth and Foot Painters sell paintings, cards, calendars. It's charity. Oh, okay. Yeah. They do some amazing work. From what I seem to recall. I think I've seen more people doing the mouth painting than the feet before in those videos. But I'll have to take a look at that, Patty. Glad you like it, Laura. Our storm is over. So it just passed by. Someone, oh no, that was in New Mexico. Deanna posted a photograph on Facebook of one of those haboobs that looked like, incredible. Someone took it from like out of a plane or something like that. I haven't seen Bill on here lately. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I haven't been on quite as often. I thought I saw. Wasn't Bill on last week? Does anyone remember? My dad is turning 90. Maybe do one of these. It's time for your dad. Yeah, do a spread like that, or do a yeah. Did your dad ever? What did dad like the outdoors? I don't know if he liked fishing or something like that. Put a little fisherman in here or something like that. He'd love it. Especially, if you haven't done like one of those interior spreads, if it's like something a little bit different too, you know what I mean? We're all or a lot of us are stampers, right? So, and card makers, so we've probably given a lot of cards to people. So sometimes like doing like something like this too, you know, anything where you just use the back of the card too. This card would be cool too on a white piece of paper. Now I look at it, you can do something like this, and this can just be white up here. I don't know if it might be a daytime scene instead, but just this like a composition like that would be really fun on a smaller card. You can do like this would be cool too, like just like slimline too, like this, and it could be folded too if you want to as well. But yeah, a lot of different possibilities right with this one right here. I just did this white ink on blue foil piece. I don't know how those trees would look in here, in the white pigment ink, but I think something like that might be kind of interesting and really fast too on that blue foil type of thing. And I'd probably splatter paint some snowfall or something like that in there, and that would be pretty cool. Oh, biking. Yeah. So, have like those bikers now, or the bikers, and it would be cool. See, if you did this too on like a folded card format, you can have the bikers. You can have like depending on which direction the bikers are facing, you have like that dynamic between kind of a destination and the bikers. So if the bikers are facing that way, I'd put them in like this side and put some kind of destination point over there, so when they open it up like that, that would be pretty cool. And then on the front of the card too, you just stamp that one image of the biker or bikers or something like that on the front with the happy birthday or something like that with the bikers, and then they open up and there's that. It'd be really cool if someone had like a bike tread stamp or something like that, where it's riding off or something like that on the back, or one of those roller wheel types of stamps that they used to have back in the 80s. I think Inka Dinka do put them out. I don't think there was any bike treads, but I think there were things like cat paw prints or something like that where you roll it. But it'd be cool if there was like some bike treads or something like that you can do like on the back of the panel. So you have this biker, then you have the scene with the biker and the interior like that. And the back, it'd be like those little, bike tread marks or something like that. Unless he only did like road biking or something like that. But it'd be kind of interesting in terms of like the sequences like that. All right, folks. Thanks so much for joining in and checking this out. I always learn something, on these live streams too. I learned about like the whole like lefty, righty dynamics and percentages and things like that, and just the degree of like ambidextrous, I don't know, whatever abilities like that. So yeah, always interesting. Hope you like the card. And yeah, I just had a lot of fun seeing this one come together, especially when I got to those pens. Those early stages where everything was kind of looking muddled and everything like that, I thought, is it that the way this kind of is supposed to be going? I was pretty sure, but again, I haven't done it for a while, so I kind of wasn't quite certain. I was like 70% or 80%, sure about the process, but I didn't know what it was going to look like at that point in time. But always fun to see come together if it does come together. He used to do cross-state tours, 100 miles a day. Wow. Yeah, that's okay. So he was like a road bike. All right. Have a great rest of evening and weekend if we don't see you. All right, good night, everyone.